The sun was warm on Leo's face as he started his hike. Tall green trees stood like giants all around him, their leaves whispering secrets in the gentle breeze. It was a perfect day for exploring the wilderness. Leo loved hiking more than anything. He felt like a real adventurer even though his mom always packed him extra snacks and made him promise to stay on the marked trails. Today, Leo was exploring a new trail his grandpa had told him about, one that led to a sparkling waterfall. He imagined the cool water splashing on his face and the sound of it crashing down the rocks. He whistled a happy tune as he walked, his backpack bouncing lightly against his back. He had his water bottle, a map, and a bag of trail mix, everything a good hiker needed. Little did he know the perfect day was about to take a turn for the worse. Dark clouds were gathering behind the tall mountain, hidden from view for now, but they were coming and they were bringing a storm. A storm unlike anything Leo had ever seen. The first sign was the wind. It picked up suddenly, rustling the leaves with more force. Then the air grew heavy and still. Leo looked up. The sky, which had been a bright blue, was now a dark, angry gray. The sun disappeared behind thick, swirling clouds. A low rumble echoed through the trees. Uh-oh, Leo said to himself. He knew that sound. Thunder. A fat raindrop splattered on his nose. Then another and another. Soon it was raining steadily. Leo pulled out his light jacket from his backpack, but it wouldn't do much good in a downpour. He started to walk faster, hoping to make it back to the trailhead before the storm got any worse. He glanced at his map, but the wind was making it hard to hold. He tried to remember the way he had come, but the trees all looked the same. Panic started to creep into his heart. He was lost, and the storm was just beginning. The rain came down harder, blurring his vision. The thunder grew louder, and flashes of lightning lit up the forest. He needed to find shelter, and fast. The storm exploded. The wind howled like a hungry wolf, tearing at the trees. Rain lashed down in sheets, soaking Leo to the bone in seconds. He couldn't see more than a few feet in front of him. Lightning cracked nearby, and the thunder shook the ground. Leo huddled beneath a large pine tree, trying to find some protection, but the rain found its way through the branches. He was shivering uncontrollably. His teeth chattered, and his fingers were numb. He wrapped his arms around himself, trying to stay warm, but it was no use. The wind was too strong, and the rain was too cold. He was completely and utterly miserable. The forest was a blur of gray and green, filled with the deafening roar of the storm. Branches snapped and fell around him. Leo was terrified. He had never experienced anything like this before. He felt small and helpless against the power of nature. He closed his eyes and wished he was home, safe and warm in his bed. This was definitely not an adventure anymore. This was a nightmare. Just when Leo thought things couldn't get any worse, he lost his footing. The ground was slick with mud and leaves, and his shoes offered no grip. He stumbled, flailing his arms, and then went down hard, twisting his ankle as he fell. A sharp pain shot up his leg. "Ouch!" he cried out, but his voice was swallowed by the roar of the storm. He tried to stand, but his ankle wouldn't support his weight. He sank back down, tears mixing with the rain on his face. He was truly stuck, lost, cold, scared, and now injured. He pulled his knees to his chest and wrapped his arms around them, shivering harder than ever. Hopelessness washed over him. He didn't know what to do. He was all alone in the middle of a raging storm, with no shelter and a hurt ankle. Maybe, he thought, this was how the adventure ended. Not with a sparkling waterfall, but with him, cold and alone, in the pouring rain. He closed his eyes again, and this time he didn't wish for anything. He just waited. A sudden movement caught Leo's eye. At first, he thought it was just the wind playing tricks on him, making the trees sway in strange ways. But then he saw it again. A large, dark shape moving between the trees. It was huge, much bigger than a bear, and it seemed to be watching him. Leo's heart leaped into his throat. He had heard stories about Bigfoot, the legendary creature said to live in these woods. Could it be? Was Bigfoot real? He tried to get a better look, but the rain and the fading light made it difficult to see clearly. The figure stepped closer, and Leo could make out more details. It was tall and covered in thick, dark fur. It had broad shoulders and long arms that swung as it moved. Leo was frozen with fear. He didn't know what to do. Should he run? Should he scream? He couldn't run with his hurt ankle, and screaming probably wouldn't help. He just sat there, staring at the creature, waiting to see what it would do. Was this the end? Was Bigfoot going to attack him? He closed his eyes, bracing himself for the worst. But the worst didn't come. Instead of attacking, the figure took a step closer. Leo peeked through his fingers. The creature's face was surprisingly gentle. It had kind eyes and a worried expression. It reached out a massive hand not to grab him but to offer help. The Bigfoot grunted softly and pointed in a direction away from the trail. It then mimed walking, its brow furrowed with concern. Leo stared, completely bewildered. Was Bigfoot trying to help him? It seemed impossible, but there was no mistaking the creature's intentions. It wasn't acting like a monster. It was acting like someone who wanted to help. Hesitantly, Leo reached out and took the Bigfoot's hand. The hand was warm and surprisingly soft, despite its size. Bigfoot gently pulled Leo to his feet. Leo winced as pain shot through his ankle. Bigfoot seemed to understand because it supported most of Leo's weight. Slowly, carefully, Bigfoot began to lead Leo through the storm. It moved with surprising grace and agility, navigating the treacherous terrain with ease. Leo, leaning heavily on Bigfoot, followed as best he could, his fear slowly replaced by a cautious hope. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't going to die in the woods after all. They trudged through the undergrowth, the wind and rain still battering them relentlessly. Leo had no idea where Bigfoot was taking him, but he trusted the creature implicitly. There was something about its calm demeanor and gentle touch that put him at ease. After what seemed like forever, they arrived at a rocky cliff face. Bigfoot stopped in front of a wall of water cascading down the rocks. A waterfall? Leo thought, confused. But then, Bigfoot reached out and pushed aside a curtain of ivy, revealing a hidden opening behind the waterfall. It was a cave. Bigfoot gestured for Leo to enter. The cave was dark and damp, but it offered immediate relief from the wind and rain. Leo limped inside, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. It was surprisingly spacious, with a high ceiling and a smooth, sandy floor. The sound of the waterfall was muffled inside the cave, creating a sense of peace and tranquility. Leo looked back at Bigfoot, his heart filled with gratitude. He had been rescued, not by a park ranger or a rescue team, but by the very creature he had once feared. He was safe, at least for now, in Bigfoot's secret cave. Bigfoot grunted and disappeared back outside. Leo watched, wondering what it was doing. A few minutes later, Bigfoot returned, carrying a pile of dry leaves and small branches. It dropped the pile in the center of the cave and then, to Leo's amazement, started to build a fire. Bigfoot rubbed 2 sticks together with surprising dexterity. It took a few tries, but finally, a tiny spark appeared. Bigfoot carefully coaxed the spark into a flame, adding more leaves and twigs until a small fire was crackling merrily. The fire cast a warm glow on the cave walls, chasing away the shadows and the dampness. Leo felt a surge of warmth spread through his body. He moved closer to the fire, stretching out his hands to feel the heat. He watched Bigfoot tending the flames, adding more wood and making sure the fire didn't go out. It was incredible. Bigfoot, the legendary monster, was taking care of him, keeping him safe and warm. He realized that maybe, just maybe, the stories he had heard about Bigfoot weren't true. Maybe Bigfoot wasn't a monster at all. Maybe it was just a lonely creature trying to survive in the wilderness, just like him. Leo reached into his backpack, his fingers fumbling for something to offer Bigfoot. All he had was a granola bar. It wasn't much, but it was the only way he knew how to say thank you. He held out the granola bar towards Bigfoot, who looked at it with curiosity. Bigfoot tilted its head, sniffing the granola bar cautiously. It looked at Leo, then back at the granola bar as if trying to decide if it was safe to eat. Finally, with a slow, deliberate movement, it reached out and took the granola bar from Leo's hand. Bigfoot unwrapped the granola bar carefully, its large fingers surprisingly gentle. It took a small bite, chewing slowly and thoughtfully. Leo watched, holding his breath. Would it like it? Bigfoot's eyes widened slightly. It took another bite, then another, until the entire granola bar was gone. It looked at Leo and grunted softly, a sound that Leo interpreted as a sign of approval. Leo smiled. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a huge step. He had shared something with Bigfoot and Bigfoot had accepted it. In that moment, a bond formed between them, an unlikely friendship born in the heart of a storm. The granola bar wasn't just food, it was a symbol of trust and understanding. Outside, the storm continued to rage. The wind howled and the rain pounded against the rocks. But inside the cave, it was warm and peaceful. The fire crackled, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Leo and Bigfoot sat in comfortable silence, the only sounds the gentle roar of the waterfall and the crackling of the fire. Leo looked at Bigfoot, really looked at it for the first time. He saw not a monster, but a creature with intelligent eyes and a kind face. He wondered about Bigfoot's life, about where it came from and what it did when it wasn't rescuing lost hikers. Was it lonely? Did it have a family? He wished he could talk to it, ask it questions, understand it better. He leaned back against the cave wall, feeling a sense of calm he hadn't felt since the storm began. He was safe, he was warm, and he had a friend, an unlikely friend, but a friend nonetheless. The storm raged on, but inside the cave, a different kind of storm had passed. A storm of fear and misunderstanding, replaced by a quiet sense of peace and connection. The unlikeliest of friendships was blossoming in the heart of the wilderness. Flashback. A younger Bigfoot, smaller but still imposing, watched from the edge of the woods. It saw a family picnicking in a sunny meadow, laughing and sharing food. It longed to join them, to experience the warmth and connection it saw in their eyes. But it knew it couldn't. It was different, a creature of the forest, and humans were afraid of what they didn't understand. It had watched other humans before, hikers and campers, always from a distance. Sometimes it would leave small gifts for them, a perfectly formed pine cone, a brightly colored feather, hoping to show that it meant no harm. But the humans never saw the gifts, or if they did, they didn't understand who had left them. The loneliness was a constant ache, a deep longing for companionship. It had learned to survive on its own, to find food and shelter in the wilderness. But what it truly craved was connection, a simple act of kindness, a shared moment of understanding. That's why, when it saw the young hiker struggling in the storm, it knew it had to help. It was a chance, a small chance, to bridge the gap between its world and theirs. End flashback. Leo shivered, pulling himself from his thoughts. The fire was starting to die down. He looked at Bigfoot, its face illuminated by the flickering flames. He wondered if Bigfoot ever felt lonely too. Leo added more wood to the fire, and the flames leaped up again, casting a warm light on the cave. He glanced towards the entrance and noticed something different. The rain seemed to be lighter, and the wind wasn't howling as fiercely as before. He could even see patches of blue sky peeking through the clouds. I think the storm is ending, Leo said, more to himself than to Bigfoot. Bigfoot grunted in response, its eyes fixed on the cave entrance. It seemed to understand. After a few more minutes, the rain stopped completely. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a golden glow on the forest. The air smelled fresh and clean, and the birds began to sing. The storm had passed. Leo stood up, stretching his stiff muscles. His ankle still hurt, but it felt a little better. He looked at Bigfoot, a grateful smile on his face. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." Bigfoot nodded, its eyes meeting Leo's. In that moment, Leo knew that their unlikely friendship would last a lifetime. Even though they couldn't speak the same language, they understood each other. They had shared a terrifying experience, and they had come out of it stronger, together. The sun was shining, and it was time to go home. Before they left the cave, Bigfoot examined Leo's injured ankle. It gently probed the swollen joint, and Leo winced in pain. Bigfoot seemed to understand and disappeared into the back of the cave. It returned moments later with several long, straight branches and some broad, soft leaves. Using the branches as splints and the leaves as padding, Bigfoot carefully fashioned a makeshift bandage for Leo's ankle. It worked with surprising skill, tightening the bandage just enough to provide support without cutting off circulation. Leo was amazed. Where had Bigfoot learned to do that? "Thank you," Leo said again, his voice filled with gratitude. "You're a really good doctor." Bigfoot grunted and pointed to the bandage, then to Leo's ankle as if to say, "Take it easy." Leo nodded. He knew he wouldn't be able to walk very far on his own, but the bandage definitely helped. With Bigfoot's support, he would be able to make it back to the trail. He couldn't believe how lucky he was. Not only had Bigfoot saved him from the storm, but it had also fixed his ankle. He owed this creature everything. It was time to start the journey home together. The journey back was slow and arduous. Leo leaned heavily on Bigfoot, who provided unwavering support. The forest looked different in the sunlight, brighter and more welcoming. The birds sang sweetly, and the air was filled with the scent of pine. It was hard to believe that just a few hours ago, this same forest had been a terrifying and dangerous place. Bigfoot led Leo carefully through the undergrowth, avoiding the roughest terrain and helping him over fallen logs. Leo was grateful for its strength and patience. He knew he couldn't have made it this far on his own. After a while, they reached a familiar trail. Leo recognized the markings on the trees and knew that he was close to safety. Bigfoot stopped at the edge of the woods, its eyes looking towards the trail. It grunted softly and pointed in the direction Leo needed to go. It was telling him that this was where they had to part ways. Leo felt a pang of sadness. He didn't want to say goodbye to his new friend. He knew he would probably never see Bigfoot again. Leo reached out and took Bigfoot's hand one last time. He looked into its kind eyes and felt a surge of gratitude so strong it brought tears to his eyes. He knew that he would never forget this moment, this unlikely friendship forged in the heart of a storm. "Thank you." Leo whispered. His voice choked with emotion. "I'll never forget you." Bigfoot squeezed Leo's hand gently, then released it. It stepped back into the shadows of the woods, disappearing as quickly and silently as it had appeared. Leo watched until it was gone, a lump forming in his throat. He knew that he couldn't tell anyone about his encounter with Bigfoot. People wouldn't believe him, and they might even try to hurt Bigfoot. He had to protect his friend, keep its secret safe. He turned and started hobbling down the trail, his ankle still throbbing. He was alone again, but he wasn't afraid. He knew that even though he couldn't see Bigfoot, it was still out there, watching over him. He had a secret friend in the woods, and that was enough. He smiled, a small but genuine smile. The adventure wasn't over, it was just beginning. It wasn't long before Leo reached the end of the trail. He saw his mom's car parked in the lot, and his heart leaped with joy. He hobbled towards it as fast as he could, his ankle aching with every step. His mom saw him and rushed out of the car, her face etched with worry. "Leo. Oh, Leo, are you okay?" she cried, pulling him into a tight hug. "I'm okay, Mom," Leo said, "just a little tired and my ankle hurts." He didn't tell her about the storm, or about getting lost, or about Bigfoot. He just said that he had slipped and twisted his ankle and had to wait for the rain to stop. His mom didn't press him for details. She was just relieved that he was safe. She helped him into the car and wrapped him in a warm blanket. As they drove away, Leo looked back at the woods, a silent promise in his heart. He knew that he would never forget his adventure or the gentle giant who had saved his life. He had seen a different side of Bigfoot, a side that most people never knew existed. And he knew that it was a secret worth keeping, a treasure to be guarded forever. He smiled. He was home. Back at home, Leo's mom made him hot chocolate and tucked him into bed. He drifted off to sleep almost immediately, his mind filled with images of the storm, the cave, and the gentle giant who had saved him. In the days that followed, Leo's ankle healed quickly. He told his mom that he wanted to go back to the trail, to hike to the waterfall he had missed. She hesitated at first, but seeing the determination in his eyes, she agreed. When they reached the waterfall, Leo stood for a long time gazing at the cascading water. He thought about Bigfoot, about the hidden cave behind the waterfall, and about the unlikely friendship they had formed. He knew that he couldn't tell anyone about it, but he also knew that it was a story that would stay with him forever. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool mist on his face. He had faced his fears, he had survived a storm, and he had made a friend in the most unexpected of places. He knew that he would never look at the wilderness the same way again. It was no longer just a place of beauty and adventure, it was also a place of secrets and surprises, a place where anything was possible, even friendship with Bigfoot. And he knew with a certainty that warmed his heart that he would always be welcome there. Years passed. Leo grew older, but he never forgot his adventure in the woods. He continued to hike, to explore, and to respect the wilderness. He never saw Bigfoot again, but he always kept an eye out, a silent hope in his heart that their paths might cross once more. He learned a valuable lesson that day, a lesson that he carried with him throughout his life. Not everything is as it seems. Monsters aren't always scary, and sometimes the most unexpected creatures can be the kindest of friends. He also learned the importance of respecting nature, of understanding that the wilderness is a powerful and unpredictable force, but also a place of great beauty and wonder. And most importantly, he learned the importance of keeping secrets, of protecting those who are different, of standing up for what you believe in, even when it's not popular. He knew that Bigfoot was out there, living its life in the shadows, and he was determined to honor its trust, to keep its secret safe. Because some friendships are worth more than gold, and some secrets are worth protecting forever. The end.